Hey everyone, welcome to the Muddy Waters podcast, where we call out the scams, we demystify misinformation, and present you with unfiltered, unbiased, unwavering facts. And the goal is to help you make informed decisions on important aspects. And I'll tell you, today's topic um, may save you or someone you know thousands to hundreds of thousands, even in some cases, potentially millions of dollars. So it's really, really important to stay tuned into this one. I'm joined as always by my co-host, Jason Madden. Jason, so you know, is a former counterintelligence officer, an experienced cryptocurrency trader, which makes today's topic even more relevant based on his experience. And Jason, what are we going to be talking about? And as importantly, why are we talking about it?
Well, it's funny you mentioned the crypto world because scams are so prevalent there because it's decentralized finance. It's easy to transfer and move money. It's harder to track it, although you could, but it's much harder for law enforcement to track it. And it's just so much easier for scammers to get away with what they're doing. So the topic today is a term called pig butchering. It
Big
comes
butchering.
from a practice of basically fattening up your victim by building trust over time before the slaughtering occurs, and they ask for money and they steal it and they get away with it, and it's through multiple means. Why, albeit, hey, it's a medical bill, or it's a traditional Nigerian prince scam, or it's, hey, I've got this uh, uncle that trades cryptocurrency and he's really good at it, but we got to do it on his platform and his exchange and all that kind of stuff. So I think pig butchering for our first episode is a very timely topic. And like you said, can hopefully help others avoid a lot of heartache.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you what. First of all, we're going to talk about there is a playbook, and what we're going to share with you is based on ProPublica's investigative journalist research, meeting with dozens of victims, meeting with the folks that worked in these sweatshops. Many times they were um, human trafficking victims that were brought in by organized gangs to be the ones doing this outreach. And I will tell you personally, this week alone, it's only Wednesday. I've had three people reach out to me exactly meeting the criteria we're going to talk about, really flagging me that this might be one of those schemes. So we're going to lay out all the different steps because there is a playbook, and then we're going to tell you what you can do to protect yourself. So a lot of good stuff to cover today.
Perfect, perfect. Let's get into it. So,
Oh, yeah, how's it start?
well, it really starts with getting to know your victim and creating that fake identity first, so that they can approach you. So they most often begin by creating that online persona. It's typically accompanied by a really sexy photo or something like that, something attractive, which itself was probably even stolen as well. But that a lot of those images try to convey more of a glamorous lifestyle. So think about Instagram, and these people are posing next to the Golden Gate Bridge. They're next to like a really nice car, or they're in a really beautiful restaurant or something like that.
Interesting. Let me ask you, Jason, can you do a reverse image search?
You
So
absolutely
let's
can.
say, yeah, the next step is they're going to reach out to you, and we're going to talk about that. Before they reach out to you, they create these sometimes elaborate profiles with Gucci bags and Ferraris and, you know, extravagant travel and all that kind of stuff. You can do a reverse Google search on an image to find out if it's public domain, right?
You absolutely can. And I don't know if that is going to be your only piece of information to kind of put that puzzle together, because some of these organizations actually hire models that will actually engage with you. And I was actually looking at some research and some YouTube videos today, and there was an expose inside of an organization that does exactly this. And it's an office with tons and tons of people, and they have couches in the corner, they have a nice view, they have little backdrops and stuff like that, and it actually has these women doing FaceTime calls for verification calls as well. So they're
No way.
absolutely stepping up their game with real people.
Wow. All right, so let's talk about the profile setup. Now these agencies are in place. What does the initial outreach look like?
Usually, and you probably get these all the time. It's usually a text message. Hey Joe, I'm near your house. Can I swing by? I can be there in about 15 minutes. And of course, it's the wrong number, and they're waiting for you to respond. Hey bro, wrong number, or lady or whoever. And then oh my bad. How are you? And that's how that conversation starts to happen. Well, one, it's a way to kind of get you on the hook to get you to respond. But two, it's also another way for other types of scams of verifying whether or not that your phone number is active. So even
Mm,
responding in general to those types of messages could actually leave you open to some type of criminal activity.
wow. So we could end this podcast right now just by saying if anybody you don't know reaches out to you, especially if they have a mistaken identity. Oh, I texted Joe, but I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was, you I was reaching out to. Just simply don't respond. But human nature is to be polite, right? Hey, listen, this isn't Joe, this is Phil. FYI. Oh, well, what's going on with you, Phil? That's when it starts. So what happens from there?
Well, what happens from there if you bite? They're going to start talking to you. They're going to get to know you. They're going to start trying to build your trust. So that's step number three: win the trust of the target. It's starting those conversations. Maybe mining for a little bit more information, maybe something that they can use against you further on down the line. You know, usually they're going to switch from their original form of contact, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or text message, and they're probably going to move it to some type of messaging platform like Line, WhatsApp, or Telegram or Signal or something like that. Those are much harder for law enforcement to track. So it makes sense that they're going to move you over to some of those platforms that don't share data with law enforcement, or they're an overseas platform.
All right, so a couple steps in the process. The profile is super appealing, super hot chick, super handsome dude. There's luxury items, amazing travel in all this stuff that when you look at it, you go, wow, that's a successful person. Then the outreach occurs, oftentimes mistaken identities, sometimes a direct message. Again, I got 3 from LinkedIn. And then the move to a more secure platform, a more protected platform. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that protected platform for them, not for you. Just to be clear.
Yeah. So, wow. Okay. And then they start to get to know you a little bit,
Mhm.
asking about your life, your family, what you do for a living. And this feels to us like rapport building, like, hey, I'm getting to know somebody new. This is kind of cool. And they're interested in me and they're hot guy, hot girl, whatever you look for. The reality is they're pulling together information to place in a script later to manipulate you. So
Mhm.
we're going to visit that in a little bit. What happens after that rapport is built, Jason?
There's going to be the ask. There will be the ask or the offer. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent on the ask first. Have you heard of the Nigerian prince scam? Hey, I'm stuck in a prison. I need you to pay me this much money so I could get access to my funds. When you send me this money, I'll send you $1 million or something like that, right?
Yep.
Well, that has roots all the way back to the early 1900s. It's a classic, they call it an advanced fee scam. So basically, it involves somebody promising a victim a large amount of money in the future in exchange for a small fee today. So you give me money, I give you a bunch of money later on down the road. So the original scam, the original Nigerian prince scam, is actually called the Spanish prisoner swindle, and that happened. Earliest recorded time for that was back in 1910. Back then, victims wouldn't receive a text message, obviously, but they would get a letter in the mail with the basic same structure between both of those scams kind of remaining the same. It's just a little, just a little bit different. I'm stuck in a Spanish prison. My gold is on a ship off the shore or something like that, right? But
Wow.
there's that ask, or it can be that offer. I've got this great investment opportunity. And that can be, like I said before at the beginning, that could be a cryptocurrency kind of thing. And be very, very careful with crypto. Be very careful. There's that. And then there's other scams, obviously. Um, for example, I did some live research very recently, and there's job scams too. So somebody might reach out to you pretending to be a recruiter, and then they pass you off to somebody that might be on WhatsApp or Telegram or something like that. I took a little bit of a risk so you all can get this information. Okay, I clicked on some links I probably shouldn't have. Luckily, I put my computer into my Linux program so that I don't give it a bunch of cooties and stuff. But what happened was they brought me over to WhatsApp, and they told me about this job opportunity where you're doing an app developer role. And all you really have to do is test the apps to make sure that they work, and they connect you onto this program. And it seems like the easiest thing ever. And they give you bonuses and commissions, like a weekly commission and a monthly commission, et cetera, as long as you make your quota of however many apps per day. But it's
What?
play. They want you to inject $100 minimum so that you can open up the program, because they're a third party program with all these people that are creating their apps. So they convince you to put money in so that you can actually get to work. Disclaimer: if any job asks you for money, they're full of what, right? And that goes with
Clearly.
job boards too. If you got to pay for a job board, they're full of it. Anyway, uh, so I invested a little bit of money for the purpose of this episode, and I paid the $100. And it was going good. It was going really well for the first couple of days. They trained me. It took like 5 minutes, right? They showed me what to do. Um, they did screenshots of what their dashboard looks like and showed me my dashboard, got me my login and all this kind of stuff. The first day went well. I earned probably $100 worth of commissions, and I still had the $100 I put in, which they said I could take out at any time. But when you hit they call it a bonus set, you actually triple or 5x your money on your bonuses. However, in order to access that, you have to match that money that you're doubling, with the
Mm.
promise of being able to get it back. So there are people out there that have put thousands and thousands of dollars into these programs only to hit another bonus set that locks up their money. And eventually they either get, run out of money and they can't do it anymore and they lose their money, or they just give up and they lose their money. And it's really unfortunate. Scam is very prevalent. That one's getting very, very prevalent, and it goes through a number of different companies. One of them was 7Layer, and another one was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was basically a Saudi Arabia-based company. Do you ever think that you'll get fair treatment and labor from a Saudi Arabia-based company that makes you want to pay for your
Mm.
job? Probably not.
You know, fascinating stuff. And thank you for going through that experience and opening up yourself. Sounds like you were very careful to avoid vulnerabilities in that research. Um, I got hit up by one of those as well, but I want to back up a step to post creating that profile and then the initial outreach and that building of rapport. Frankly speaking, what they're looking for is vulnerabilities. On dating apps, are you lonely and single? Are you looking for a companion? Do you hope to find a wife? Somebody approaches you randomly, romantically, and builds up this whole thing about, oh, yeah, I'd love to meet you. Well, guess what? Let's hop on a video call right now, right? And if they refuse to do so, that's a red flag. If they join you, it could be one of these people in the agency, so you can't fully trust that as well. If you're
Absolutely.
looking for a job or out of work and you need to create income for your family, you've got a vulnerability. If you're a senior citizen suffering from health issues, You've got a vulnerability. So when you get these outreaches, don't show the vulnerability, but think about how that vulnerability can be weaponized against you. And then, now we move into the actual scam. So in pig butchering, there is the ask. And this is really centered around crypto.
And it can mean a lot of different ways. It could be crypto, it could be, money to a hospital, money to an organization, or just helping somebody, get their uncle out of jail. I don't know, but you're right. That's getting real money into whatever fake account it is. That's going to be the next step. So once you agree to learn about investing or help in some way or another, the person you're engaging with will explain how to wire money from your bank account to a crypto wallet, or what some type of fake brokerage or something like that. Usually they'll ease you into it by, not recommending a whole lot of money at first. And on the investment side, you might get a couple of really successful trades like, oh, this makes so much sense, I'm going to go in and do this. I'm going to put more money in and more money in, and because they're going to talk to you about returns, and they're going to kind of shame you a little bit in some cases, like, hey, you're totally underperforming from what you're capable of. Let's put more money in there, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think happens when you try to take that money out, though? Lots of resistance.
Oh, yeah. So some of the hooks could be, how's your 401k performing?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, they grow between 8 and 12%. You could get a 40% return. I've already shown you. You invested a little bit, you've seen 40% come back. Why would you keep it in the 401k when you can move it into this investment and quadruple your returns, right? Do
Exactly.
you have a home? If so, can you get a home equity loan? Couldn't that money work more effectively than the market given interest rates? You're not ready to sell just now. You could pay back that loan in the future. So that assessment of you're missing out on the opportunity, the hook for how to find additional money, even friends and family you might borrow from, is kind of the next step.
Yep.
But then you alluded to something that happens. So once the bait is hooked, once the fish is on the line, once the fish is caught and on the boat, then you're just kind of flopping out of water until you die. And what happens is, in this whole situation, eventually you become aware that this could be a problem, that this could be a scam. Maybe you try to pull out significant money. Maybe you call it out and say, hey, I'm a little bit concerned. I want to talk about this. What happens after you reach that point of realization that you're a fish on the boat flopping out of water?
Some people come to that realization really quickly, and oftentimes once that exchange occurs, it's too late. As soon as that money is moved, it's too late. um, they are developing better ways in law enforcement to be able to track cryptocurrencies and to be able to do things, but most of the time when the criminal is overseas, specifically like Southwest Asia, there's really not a whole lot to do. There's not a whole lot to do. And especially if you're putting money into an overseas bank that eventually goes into a fraudulent exchange, it's going to be near impossible to get that money back, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that gives all of you, I hope, a really good taste and alerts you to the next time your LinkedIn dings with, like I said, I got 3 this week. All were photos of beautiful women.
Mm-hmm.
Some were by the Golden Gate Bridge, coincidentally, 2 out of 3 of them. One of them had a Gucci bag. One of them had a luxury car. I think it was the Tesla Roadster, or the new truck, if I remember correctly. I'm looking at all these things, and then I looked at their connections, and they each had under 10, red flag, randomly reached out to me. So let's talk about, what do you do to protect yourself now that we know what the scam is? And Jason, great research, great insights there. The easiest and most important safeguard is never, ever, ever reply to an unwanted message from a person you don't know.
Yeah. Number one,
Now
don't
you're
talk to
safe.
strangers. Our parents taught us that, right? Don't talk to
Right.
strangers on the internet.
But what happens if you do? What happens if you do engage? You've
Validate.
got some tools to work with. You accidentally respond to the message. Now you're in a conversation. Don't reveal anything personal, as tempting as it may be. When they ask you about who you are, what you do, what your life is, let's take the LinkedIn example. My work profile is on LinkedIn. You don't have to ask me what I do. And I've gotten these messages this week that said, well, I'm confused by the industry you're in. Can you explain a little bit more about what you do? It looks really cool.
No, you can click on a link just like anybody else. That's just too easy.
Yeah, my website is listed there, my calendar is listed there, and there's a very good description of what I do and what I've done in the past. And if you're that lazy that you're just going to send out that kind of message, yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's a red flag. Invite them to video calls if you can. Now, knowing that there are agencies, Jason alluded to, that are set up now that give a legitimate face to these types of things. So them attending a video call isn't a pass, go, and collect $200 sign. There still are some other questions. You can do those reverse searches and some other things. But then never disclose your financial data. Never take unsolicited financial advice from someone you don't know. Research the trading platforms. And as importantly, school yourself on manipulation techniques. Jason, being a former counterintelligence officer, maybe we can get deeper into an episode of how manipulation occurs and how to spot the signs of somebody who's attempting to use information you shared in good faith against you. But school yourself on manipulation techniques and be quick to recognize when something you're hearing could fall into that category. And that should raise up all the alerts and red flags.
Yes, absolutely. And some good examples of manipulation techniques are guilt. That's like the number one thing. It's number
Hmm.
two is fear. So if anyone's trying to make you feel guilt or fear, especially a stranger, not somebody that you know very well, they're most likely trying to manipulate you. The last resort is probably going to be anger.
What
So,
is so what does the guilt manipulation sound like?
well, wouldn't you want to give your family a better life with so much coming through? Or my nephew's really sick and I need money for the hospital bills. Look at this picture. Isn't he cute? Isn't she cute? Or something like that. Fear,
Wow.
fear.
Fear.
You currently have money in a 401k or an IRA and it's making almost no money and not even catching up to inflation. Wouldn't you want to do something that actually earns you some real money? That's some fear right there, right? Anger. You're such a wuss. Why wouldn't you do it? Why not? This is the easiest thing and it's the safest thing ever. Don't be such a baby.
Wow. Wow. And again, knowing that they've spent time, they have a playbook, they've invested in getting to know you, they've researched your social media platforms once you've engaged. They have a sense of who you are, who your family is, how you talk. They take that plus the information you've shared with them to sculpt this really uh, uh, comprehensive strategy against you. But if you just follow the signs and follow your gut, there's a book called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. And it talks about how we, from a survival perspective, back in the ancient days, we survived by that instinct that said, hey, there's a woolly mammoth charging or a saber-toothed lion getting ready to attack. All those little triggers that you feel are survival instincts that are hardwired into our primal brains. Once that starts ticking, you're probably right. That's the gift of fear.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? I think a good way to kind of close this today is, if it feels too good to be true, it's most likely not true. And that's the case 99.999% of the time, unfortunately.
100%. And listen, I'll close with this. We always want you to do your own research. But listen, get outside of whatever echo chamber you may find yourself in. Triangulate information. Go to other sources you don't normally look for. Look for the credibility in their research. just remember, anybody can have an opinion, but what really matters in life is having an informed opinion, especially about those things that matter. And that's why we do what we do in this podcast, and we hope this has helped you. We've got some exciting episodes coming up in the coming weeks. For a lot of other stuff we'll be covering, but listen, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with family members and friends, because all of us at one point in our life are going to be approached, and probably already have, for scams. And hopefully this lays out a good foundation of what to do if you're approached.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, hey, always a pleasure chatting with you about this stuff. I hope you listening out there, I hope this was valuable insight. And if you like it, you know the drill, right? Like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and we'll see y'all next.
Boom. Right on. See you,
Thank
buddy.